So seduction isn't like, pickup artists don't really like the art of seduction so much.
Why is that?
Because it's not quick enough for them. I'm telling you, you have to go through these steps. I don't want to have to go through all these steps. I don't have to wait 3 weeks to sleep with her or a month. I don't have to surprise her and give her gifts, or I'm talking about from the male point of view.
Sure.
Do all of these things that Robert talks about. I want it quick. Some of them aren't like that, but some of them are. And so there are plenty of books written out there about how to pick up women or guys in a bar. But the seduction isn't about that. It's something else. It's something more elemental. And I talk in the Art of Seduction about how it goes back to our childhood, how we are incredibly vulnerable to the emotions of other people. It begins with our parents, right? And the sense of, we internalize their presence. We're thinking about them. We have this kind of very deep emotional attachment to them. We're seduced by our parents in some ways. It kind of sets a tone from early childhood, this need to feel vulnerable to other people, right? That's the thing as well is, it's a lot of people mistake seduction, and that's the reason I wrote the book. They have really bad ideas about it.
What do they think it is?
Well, they have an idea that it's this kind of cold process. Typically, it'll be a male seducer, but it can be a woman, and they're really conniving, and they're coming up with all kinds of tricks,
schemes
to get the woman or man to fall for them. And either they're after money or sex or something else, right? And actually seduction is a matter of vulnerability. It's making yourself vulnerable to the other person.
Really?
Yeah. And we live in times where people have a hard time being vulnerable. If you're insecure, if you're filled with a lot of anxiety, you tend to close up inside of yourself. And to let another person in and to let them have some control over your emotions can be kind of a scary process. But if you can't feel that vulnerability, if you can't open yourself up to the power of that other person, there won't be a seduction. It'll be this kind of cold, mechanical process, right?
So how do we learn to open ourselves up and be vulnerable to allow for seduction to happen? If we're really interested in someone, we're like, we want to start dating this person. We're really excited about the potential, but we also don't want to ruin it and mess up.
Yeah. Well, each relationship is different, right?
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of people on this vulnerability issue, particularly women who've come to me for counseling, where they've had a bad experience, right? They dealt with maybe a man who was a kind of cold, calculating seducer type, or an abusive relationship, right? And what happens is they get kind of bitter and hardened by it, and they don't want to open themselves up to another relationship. They're not aware of that's happening, but unconsciously that's what's going on. And I try to tell them, if you let that happen, that means that person, that abuser or whoever it was, they've defeated you, not only physically but mentally. They have conquered you. They have ruined one of the most important aspects of your life. They have made it impossible for you to feel vulnerable and open because you can't trust another person.
Wow.
And it's very difficult. So my process in there is telling them that, making it clear to them that if that happens, then they have this power over you, and you don't want to let them have that power, right? And so we work on ways, first making it clear how important it is in life to feel vulnerable, not just to other people, but to everything in the world. That's sort of the subject of my next book. But to feel vulnerable when you read a book, to open yourself to other people's ideas, to open yourself in general to people and to their spirit, and to let them in, and to let them have some influence over you and some power over you,
Why is that important?
Because it allows you then to have a deeper understanding and a deeper connection with people. So, we all kind of live in these castles where we're trying to protect ourselves, right? And we're all kind of defensive. And it's for good reason. We live in a world that's very harsh, a lot of information, a lot of things going on at the same time. So we kind of live in these castles. And you're not understanding people unless you can kind of open up to their spirit. I talk about in the Art of Seduction enter the other person's spirit is one of the key chapters, where you're able to kind of put yourself inside of the other person and feel what they might be thinking, right? Which is, I think, a problem that a lot of men have in dealing with women that they're interested in. Putting yourself in their position, trying to understand what makes them tick, what their psychology is about. To do that, you have to kind of let go of yourself. You have to be willing to kind of float and let yourself go into them,
right,
and open yourself up to their spirit, and not assume that you know everything about them or that all of your ideas are correct. So vulnerability is a very important element that we must have in this world in order to be able to have empathy and to be able to understand people.